Welcome back to the BookCast. Today we are unpacking every layer of the incredible novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Get ready for a deep dive into its characters, themes, and the hidden meanings behind the story. We're not just summarizing, we're really peeling back the layers of this fascinating masterpiece. Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, if you will, a studio in London on a languid summer afternoon. The air is thick with the scent of laburnum and roses, the hum of bees, just this lazy backdrop sound.
Mm-hmm.
Sunlight streams through these long tussore silk curtains, creating what Wilde calls fantastic shadows of birds that flit across the canvas.
It's just soaked in beauty, isn't it? Almost dreamlike.
Exactly. And it's right here that we're immediately introduced to the core trio. They're going to shape this entire story.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Basil Hallward, the earnest, deeply sensitive artist.
Very sincere.
Then there's Lord Henry Wotton, charming and possibly witty, but also, profoundly cynical.
An aesthete.
He really is a master of words. And then the centerpiece, the mesmerizing, almost divinely beautiful young man, Dorian Gray. He's become Basil's latest, most profound muse. The atmosphere is just instantly rich, artistic, maybe almost suffocatingly beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating how Wilde establishes not just the physical atmosphere, but the spiritual one right from the start. Basil's studio isn't just a room. It's like an extension of his own soul, described with such lavish sensory detail, the honey-colored blossoms, the Japanese effect of the curtains. It pulls you right into their world.
Yeah, it does.
This careful crafting of the setting, it sort of primes us for the extraordinary things that are about to happen within these walls.
Yeah.
It really sets the stage for a story where the lines between art and reality and between beauty and morality, well, they get dangerously blurred.
And ultimately tragically intertwined.
Yes. It's almost like the very air in that studio is charged with potential.
Yeah.
For both creation and corruption.
Okay, so Basil has just finished what he thinks is his greatest masterpiece, a full-length portrait of Dorian Gray. But here's the twist, and it's a big one right off the bat. He absolutely refuses to exhibit it.
Won't let anyone see it.
No, despite its, undeniable artistic merit. Why? Why this huge secrecy? What's he so afraid of?
Well, Basil himself tells us, doesn't he? He tells Lord Henry that every portrait that is painted with feeling is a portrait of the artist, not of the sitter.
Ah, okay.
So Basil is just completely consumed by Dorian. He believes he's put the secret of my own soul onto that canvas in Dorian's likeness. He calls it his curious artistic idolatry. And this is where it gets really interesting. His fear isn't just about sharing a painting. It's about sharing this incredibly intimate, vulnerable piece of himself.
Right. He's exposed.
Totally. He's terrified the world will see too much of him, too much of this unseen ideal that Dorian somehow embodies for him. He worries they might not get the profound, emotional, almost spiritual investment he poured into it.
Makes sense.
He says it outright. The reason I will not exhibit this picture is that I am afraid that I have shown in it the secret of my own soul. He even admits to Lord Henry, though never to Dorian, I was dominated soul, brain, and power by you.
Wow.
You became to me the visible incarnation of that unseen ideal. I worshipped you.
Intense.
It really raises that question. Can art truly hide the artist? Or does revealing beauty inadvertently expose the creator's own passions? Maybe even dangerously so. Basil sees Dorian not just as physically beautiful, but as a suggestion of a new manner in art. He finds him in the curves of certain lines, the subtleties of certain colors.
It's almost abstract.
It is, yet intensely personal, an ideal bordering on obsession.
And then into this very charged artistic space walks Lord Henry Wotton, Basil's friend. He's portrayed as unbelievably witty, charming, but also deeply, almost corrosively cynical.
Corrosive is a good word.
He just thrives on paradoxes, doesn't he? Casually dismissing marriage as a pose.
Oh, yeah, and that famous line, being natural is simply a pose and the most irritating pose I know.
Classic Lord Henry. He's not just clever, he's a master manipulator of thought, subtly pulling strings with every little epigram.
Exactly. Lord Henry is the absolute embodiment of aestheticism, but, like you said, with a sharp, almost dangerous edge. His dialogue isn't really about genuine belief, I think. It's more about intellectual provocation.
Designed to shock.
Yeah, designed to shatter conventional morality, social norms. It's full of those incredibly quotable lines meant to make you stop and rethink. Like, conscience and cowardice are really the same things. Or, the only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it.
Dangerous advice.
Very. He encourages critical thinking, sure, but it almost always leads down a path of self-indulgence, amorality, a rejection of traditional virtue. His influence isn't accidental either. It's like a deliberate intellectual experiment. He's observing, prodding, experimenting with human nature, like a scientist with a rare bug or something.
That's a creepy analogy.
Well, he basically admits it. He talks about the joy of projecting one's soul into some gracious form, hearing his own views echoed back with all the added music of passion and youth. He sees Dorian as this blank canvas, a marvelous type, or could be fashioned into a marvelous type, ripe for his philosophical sculpting.
Okay, so given Lord Henry's potent, kind of intoxicating philosophy, it's pretty clear his influence on a young, impressionable mind like Dorian's isn't going to be harmless. How does this first meeting set Dorian on that fateful path?
Lord Henry is instantly fascinated by him, right? Almost sensing the potential for manipulation.
Totally.
He insists on meeting Dorian, even though Basil's reluctant, and Basil sort of naively trusts him. He says, "My life as an artist depends on him. Mind, Harry, I trust you."
Yeah, and that trust. And well, it's tragically misplaced, isn't it? The second Lord Henry meets Dorian, the game is truly on. He immediately starts charming him, subtly corrupting him, while poor Basil is literally painting their destiny in the background.
Oblivious, completely. Lord Henry starts preaching his philosophy of self-indulgence, of pleasure. To influence a person is to give him one's own soul. He even argues that all influence is immoral, scientifically, because it stops you thinking natural thoughts or burning with natural passions.
Wow, quite the justification.
He goes even further, claims a person's virtues are not real to him if they're influenced, because they aren't truly theirs. His words are called subtle poison. They touch a secret chord in Dorian, awakening something. Something maybe already there, but just waiting.
A potential he didn't know he had.
Perhaps. He warns Dorian that youth is the one thing worth having, painting this vivid picture of time being jealous, making him sallow and hollow-cheeked and dull-eyed. He basically tells him, your beauty is your greatest asset, but it won't last. Seize every sensation now, before it's gone.
And what a pitch he gives him. He urges Dorian to live. Live the wonderful life that is in you. Let nothing be lost upon you. Be always searching for new sensations. Be afraid of nothing. A new hedonism that is what our century wants. You might be its visible symbol.
It's an intoxicating vision, isn't it? Unbridled pleasure, self-discovery, promises everything, seems to demand nothing.
Yeah, very compelling. Especially to someone as young and beautiful as Dorian, who probably hasn't thought much about mortality or his gifts fading.
This is truly the turning point. The moment Dorian kind of falls from innocence, maybe even before he fully gets the implications, Dorian is described as bewildered, but utterly captivated. He realizes how powerful words are, clear and vivid and cruel.
Cruel, yeah.
He feels entirely fresh influences working inside him. But weirdly, they seem to have come really from himself.
Oh, interesting. Like Lord Henry just unlocked something already there.
Exactly. That idea is key to Lord Henry's influence. He hasn't forced Dorian. He just gives him the philosophical permission slip for what Dorian might already subconsciously want. It's the seduction of the mind, really, as much as the soul.
So, as Basil puts the final touches on the portrait, Dorian is just struck by its perfect beauty. Divine, almost. And Lord Henry's terrible warning of its brevity is ringing in his ears.
That fear of aging.
Right. In that moment of intense fear, vanity, terror, he makes this desperate, chilling wish, almost like an impulsive curse. If it were only the other way, if it were I who was to be always young and the picture that was to grow old, for that, I would give my soul.
The classic Faustian bargain.
Yeah.
Made in a flash of vanity and fear.
And the chilling part is how quickly there are consequences, right?
Yeah, not instantly, but the supernatural element kicks in pretty soon after. Directly following Dorian's incredibly cruel, heartless rejection of Sybil Vane, which we need to get into.
Oh, definitely.
He notices the first subtle change in the portrait. It's not huge yet, but a distinct touch of cruelty in the mouth, as if the canvas is already registering his inner decay. The text says it was a beautiful marred face and its cruel smile.
That's the first real uh-oh moment then, where the wish is confirmed.
Exactly. The portrait is no longer just art. It's become a mirror of his soul, literally bearing the marks of his hidden ugly actions. It's the visual proof that his wish came true, and it was going to be a terrible price.
So what does this first little change mean for Dorian? How does he react?
He feels a sharp pang of pain, like a prick of dread. He realizes his wish might actually have come true. He tries to deny it at first, naturally, rationalizes it as an illusion wrought on the troubled senses, maybe a trick of the light, or just his own guilt playing tricks.
Sure you would, wouldn't you?
But the horrible thing is horribly apparent, undeniable. He sees it clearly. The lines of cruelty, that subtle shift in expression, it's a chilling confirmation of the terrifying bargain he made. Not with some external devil, maybe, but with something much more insidious inside himself.
He now has a living, breathing record of his true moral state. Wow. Okay, let's move into part 2. Love, loss, and the shadow of the canvas. So soon after meeting Lord Henry, Dorian meets Sybil Vane. She's a young, beautiful actress.
But he meets her in a hideous little theater in Whitechapel, right? A really poor area.
Yeah, quite the contrast. He describes her with this almost poetic language, a flower-like face, violet wells of passion. He falls for her instantly, intensely, almost obsessively.
But this initial fascination, and this is really crucial, it's purely aesthetic, superficial even. He falls in love not with Sybil, the actual girl, but with the characters she plays on stage.
Okay. He loves the performance.
Exactly. He loves her because she is all the great heroines of the world in one. She is art for him, Rosalind, Imogen, Juliet. She is more than an individual, he tells Lord Henry. He's just projecting his artistic ideals onto her.
So it's not love for Sybil, but love for the idea of her as this perfect artistic creation.
Precisely. He asked Lord Henry, why didn't you tell me that the only thing worth loving is an actress? He thinks she has genius. She's everything to me in life. But it's a love entirely conditioned by her performance, her ability to embody the beautiful and the tragic. He even says, I love her and I must make her love me. It sounds almost like a conquest, doesn't it? Not a real connection.
Right. And then comes the fateful performance itself. Dorian's bursting with excitement, promising this big revelation. He arranges for Lord Henry and Basil to see Sybil perform as Juliet. He's so sure she'll blow them away.
Yet maybe prove that his new philosophy, his new life, is actually leading him towards beauty and truth.
But something goes terribly, tragically wrong.
Oh, it's a disaster. Sybil's performance is a complete failure. Curiously listless, thoroughly artificial, absolutely false. The audience hisses. The manager stamps his foot in rage. It's this shocking, jarring contrast to how Dorian had built her up. Her voice, once exquisite, is now absolutely false in tone, wrong in color. It just kills the verse, makes the passion unreal. Even the balcony scene, her gestures are absurdly artificial. She speaks the lines as though they conveyed no meaning to her.
So it wasn't just nerves.
No, the text says it was simply bad art. She's lost her ability to inhabit the roles. And for Dorian, that's everything.
Oh, you can just feel the tension, the embarrassment in that little theater box, watching his ideals shatter right in front of his influential friends.
He's described as puzzled and anxious at first, but then quickly becomes hard, bitter.
He's mortified.
Completely. He apologizes profusely to Henry and Basil for wasting their evening, calls Sybil callous and cold, totally commonplace, mediocre. His artistic ideal, the whole reason he was fascinated with her, just collapses.
So after the play, Dorian confronts Sybil. What does she say?
Her explanation is genuinely heartbreaking. It gets right to the core of the tragedy. She tells him, you came, oh, my beautiful love, and you freed my soul from prison. You taught me what reality really is.
Oh, wow. So real love killed her art.
Exactly. She can no longer act because she's experienced what she believes is true love with Dorian. And that made the hollowness, the sham, the silliness of the empty pageant of the stage painfully clear to her. She saw through the artifice because she found real emotion.
That's a huge thematic point, right? The conflict between art and life.
Absolutely. For Sybil, love transcends art, makes her fake world meaningless. But for Dorian, who only loved her as art, her newfound reality destroys her appeal, makes her unreal to him.
So how does he react?
With brutal, chilling rejection. You had disappointed me. He tells her he doesn't love her anymore and just leaves, utterly devastating her.
That moment of extreme cruelty, devoid of any empathy, that really sets the stage for what comes next, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a pivotal moment of moral failure.
And what happens next is the direct, terrible consequence of that cruelty. Sybil, completely crushed, commits suicide, poisons herself.
Yeah. It's a truly tragic end for her.
Yeah.
She offered Dorian a path to genuine human connection, maybe. A path he just brutally rejected.
And how does Dorian find out? How does he take it?
Lord Henry, predictably, delivers the news via telegram.
Yeah.
Ever the master manipulator of emotions.
Of course.
And Dorian's initial reaction is just strange, detached, disturbingly so. He finds it far too wonderful for tears. Like a wonderful ending to a wonderful play.
Seriously.
Yeah. A Greek tragedy in which he took a great part, but by which I have not been wounded. He even calls her death selfish. And Lord Henry just leans into it, reinforces that detachment, twists the narrative to fit his cynical view, suggests her death has All the pathetic uselessness of martyrdom, all its wasted beauty, argues she never really lived, and so she has never really died.
Wow.
To you, at least, she was always a dream, a phantom. This cynical framing just validates Dorian's callousness, shifts his focus away from guilt, convinces him it was just an artistic event, not a human tragedy.
It's almost chillingly clinical, isn't it? Like he's watching his own life from a distance.
Yeah, like from a theater box, not feeling the human impact. That kind of emotional anesthesia is terrifying.
But then comes another moment of horrifying revelation for Dorian.
Right. He discovers the portrait has changed again.
What happens this time?
The cruelty around the mouth is intensified, and there's a scarlet dew implying blood, or maybe a wound spotting one of the hands.
Oh, God. That's the truly horrifying proof that the wish is real and his soul is actively decaying.
The portrait now serves this visible emblem of conscience. He even says it later. It had been like conscience to him. Yes, it had been conscience.
Yeah.
It doesn't just reflect his hidden ugliness anymore. It embodies his hideous corruption, bearing the visible marks of his cruelty to Sybil.
That line about it being more horrible than the silent thing that he knew was stretched across the table.
Yeah.
That's a chilling bit of foreshadowing for Basil, isn't it?
Definitely. It raises that question again. Can art really hold the weight of a human soul? Can a painting become this living, decaying embodiment of hidden sin, a constant, silent accusation?
It's a powerful symbol of the internal price he's paying for his outward perfection.
So, horrified by the painting getting worse, Dorian makes a crucial decision.
He has to hide it, right?
Exactly. He moves it up to his old schoolroom, a place described as having stainless purity from his childhood, untouched by his current life. Very. And he covers it with a purple pall. He thinks that by hiding it, he can escape the shame, keep his youth, and maybe even hope his nature will grow finer. He hopes some love might come across his life and purify him. He tells himself he won't look at it, hoping to avoid watching the hideous corruption of his soul.
But it's an act of denial, isn't it? Not real repentance.
Not at all. Just hiding the evidence.
Okay, let's dive into part 3. A life unveiled, decadence and desperation. Soon after Sybil's death, Lord Henry sends Dorian a book. A strange book.
Ah, the infamous Yellow Book.
That's the one. A novel without a plot, apparently, but a psychological study of a young Parisian trying to experience, well, everything. All the passions and modes of thought that belong to every century except his own.
Yeah, this book basically becomes his blueprint for ruin, his guide to living a life purely for sensation.
It's often thought to be based on Huysman's Aribor, right?
Yeah.
Against nature.
That's the general consensus, yes. It becomes Dorian's personal guide. Wilde calls it a prefiguring type of himself, containing the story of his own life, written before he had lived it. It lays out this philosophy of pure aesthetic experience, where vice and virtue are to the artist materials for an art.
So morality doesn't matter.
Not in this view. The only regret is not pursuing every pleasure. It encourages this active hunt for sensation, no matter how extreme, and complete detachment from conventional morality. It even suggests that the more insincere the man is, the more purely intellectual will the idea be.
Wow.
This transforms Dorian's curiosity into this dedicated, almost academic pursuit of all sensations. He throws himself into art, music, jewels, tapestries, even paradoxically the rituals of the church, but all as ways to procuring extraordinary sensations, enriching his experience.
He wants to be a spectator in his own life.
Pretty much. Experience everything without truly engaging, without feeling the consequences. This book basically systematizes his corruption, give it an intellectual justification.
And so, for years, Dorian manages this double life. He keeps up his youthful, charming public image, throws lavish parties, knows all the right people, displays impeccable taste.
While privately, his life gets increasingly scandalous, hidden beneath this veneer of exquisite refinement.
The duality is chilling. Adored socialite by day, shadowy figure of depravity by night.
Exactly. Rumors start swirling. Subtly at first, but they get worse after he hits 25. Curious stories became current about him. He's seen brawling with foreign sailors in a low den in Whitechapel.
Captain Whitechapel.
Yeah, consorting with thieves and coiners, even knowing the mysteries of their trade. People whisper, look at him with cold, searching eyes, trying to figure out his secret.
But his looks protect him.
Completely. His unchanging youth acts like this impenetrable shield. Society just can't reconcile the beautiful appearance with the monstrous rumors. It shows the profound moral decay hidden underneath, a direct contrast to his perfect exterior.
And he starts identifying with bad guys from history.
He does. Figures known for vice and blood and weariness, like Filippo, Duke of Milan, or the Borgias. He immerses himself vicariously in their monstrous lives, sees ghastly grotesques and monstrous or mad individuals as reflections of his own dark path, almost finding justification in their historical depravity. The book notes his soul finds solace in the lives of those who had been great sinners.
The rumors eventually get so bad that Basil Hallward, who's still completely devoted to Dorian, finally confronts him.
Yeah, he begs Dorian to clear himself, expressing this deep concern for his soul. Basil's loyalty is just heartbreaking.
He even says, "Your friendship is dearer to me than any fame or reputation."
He represents that last link to true, unconditional affection for Dorian, doesn't he? Such a stark contrast to Lord Henry's cynical fascination.
But Basil can't really believe the stories, can he?
Not really. Given Dorian's outward innocence and beauty, he says, "I cannot believe it. You are better than you seem." He tries desperately to appeal to Dorian's better nature. He mentions the damage Dorian's caused, that wretched boy in the Guards who committed suicide, Sir Henry Ashton, who had to leave England with a tarnished name.
He's blind to how bad it really is.
Totally blind, clinging to the ideal image he painted. But Dorian, driven by this madness of pride and an uncontrollable feeling of hatred, may be suggested by the evil face in the portrait. He takes Basil to the locked room.
Oh no, the big reveal.
Yeah. He unveils the portrait, shows his loathsome and hideous soul to the horrified painter. Basil sees the face of a satyr covered in the leprosies of sin. And in that moment of shock, he cries out, "Christ, what a thing I must have worshipped. It has the eyes of the devil."
Basil is just shocked to his core by this grotesque sight, but he still tries to save Dorian, right? He pleads with him to pray.
He does. To seek redemption. "Lead us not into temptation. Forgive us our sins. Wash away our iniquities." Let us say that together. He sees the portrait as a terrible, awful lesson, but maybe still a chance for salvation even then.
But Dorian, he's too far gone.
He's consumed by the evil reflected back at him, driven by this intense hatred that the canvas itself seems to have instilled in him. The text even says the hatred came as though it had been suggested to him by the image on the canvas, whispered into his ear by those grinning lips.
Chilling.
And he grabs a knife, the very one he'd brought up earlier, to cut a cord and brutally murders Basil Hallward.
Oh, God.
It's not just murder. It's the ultimate betrayal, destroying the one person who truly loved him and wanted his good.
It's the final break from innocence, from morality, fueled by the very picture of his guilt.
Exactly.
So now Dorian has committed murder. He has to cover it up. What does he do?
He resorts to blackmail. He finds Alan Campbell, a brilliant chemist someone he used to be friends with.
There was some secret between them.
Apparently. Dorian uses knowledge of some past indiscretion, some shame, to force Campbell to dispose of Basil's body. It's chillingly calculated. Shows just how far he's fallen.
Campbell must have been horrified.
Utterly. Shaking all over it, convulsive shuddering. He refuses at first, but Dorian's leverage is just immense and chillingly effective. Dorian warns him of the shame that would ruin his life and reputation. Describes it like an iron ring tightening around his forehead.
And Campbell's a chemist, so he has the means.
Precisely. He has the scientific knowledge to completely eradicate the body. Trembling, groaning, he carries out the gruesome task, dissolves the body with chemicals.
Horrifying.
The cold, calculated act by Dorian shows his complete moral collapse, willing to destroy another life just to preserve his secret.
And Campbell pays a price too, doesn't he?
He does. We learn later he commits suicide. Can't bear the weight of his complicity. It just underscores the destructive ripple effect of Dorian's corruption.
And after Campbell does the deed,
Dorian meticulously burns Basil's coat and bag in the fireplace, notes the horrible smell of singeing clothes and burning leather. He feels faint and sick, but ultimately safe. Or he thinks he's safe from discovery. The methodical cover-up is just chilling. Fully committed to hiding sin, not repenting.
Okay, we're now in part 4. The Hunted and the Hunter, the wages of sin. Years after Basil's murder, a new threat pops up, unforeseen.
James Vane, Sybil's brother.
Right, he swore vengeance on Dorian if he ever hurt Sybil. He's been a sailor for years, holding on to that vow. Now he's back, determined to find her killer.
And he finds Dorian in a really low-down opium den in Whitechapel, which is shocking in itself, right?
Yeah.
Shows the depths Dorian has sunk to in his search for sensation.
A big contrast to his fancy life.
Huge. But Dorian's unchanging youth, because the portrait's doing all the aging and sin showing, initially tricks James. Dorian looks little more than a lad of 20 summers, exactly like he did 18 years ago when James last saw him.
So James almost lets him go.
Almost.
Yeah.
Thinks he's got the wrong guy. Nearly misses his chance for revenge.
But then, this is where it gets really unsettling. A woman in the opium den, someone Dorian ruined in the past, recognizes him.
Yeah, she spills the beans. White man, it's nigh on 18 years since Prince Charming made me what I am.
Oh, wow. Confirmation.
She confirms he hasn't changed much since then. Exposes the horrific reality of Dorian's unchanging looks. She even curses him, warns James that Dorian has sold himself to the devil for a pretty face.
So that's the moment James realizes the horrifying truth. He has found his sister's killer.
Exactly. And the hunt begins again, but this time for real.
So from that moment, James Vane is stalking Dorian, his shadow.
Pretty much. Dorian becomes constantly afraid, sees the sailor's face peering through the mist-stained glass, haunted by hideous shapes of punishment. His mind conjures up.
The psychological torment must be immense.
Totally. His carefree life is just poisoned by paranoia now. It perfectly illustrates that idea. Even without external punishment, the internal burden of guilt is its own kind of hell.
And this comes to a head at his country estate, right? Selby Royal.
Yes. During a hunting party, Dorian is suddenly gripped by fear. He sees James Vane lurking in the woods, and in this moment of almost desperate foresight, he begs one of the hunters, Sir Geoffrey Clouston, not to shoot a hare, as if he senses danger to himself or maybe just to any life connected to him.
But in another chilling twist of fate, Dorian escapes again.
Yeah. James Vane is accidentally shot by Sir Geoffrey during the hunt, mistaken for a beater in the thicket.
An ironically mundane end to this big quest for vengeance. And once again, Dorian avoids direct consequences. Seems protected by fate or something darker.
Dorian goes to identify the body, filled with dread, anticipation, a mix of fear and this perverse hope.
And when he sees it's James Vane,
A cry of joy breaks from his lips. He feels safe now.
no remorse at all.
None, just pure, selfish relief. Concerned only with his own preservation. He's escaped again, reinforcing his belief in his own invincibility.
It just shows the absolute depth of his self-absorption, his moral vacuum.
Okay, we're nearing the end. Part 5. The Final Judgment. The Portrait's Truth. Years pass after James Vane's accidental death. Dorian may be feeling a flicker of something, regret, or just needing a new sensation. He tries to convince Lord Henry he's changing.
Right, that he wants to be good.
He tells this story about sparing a young country girl, Hetty Merton. Says he determined to leave her as flower-like as I had found her. Thinks it's a step towards redemption, cleansing his soul.
But Lord Henry, ever the unwavering cynic, just dismisses it, calls it merely the novelty of the emotion.
Of course he does.
He suggests, with that characteristic sharp insight, that Dorian probably gave her good advice and broke her heart anyway, made her unhappy with her own life, taught her to despise her husband. He argues Dorian ruined her life just as profoundly, maybe even more so, by introducing her to a world she couldn't have.
Wow, so even his good deed is corrupted. In Henry's view, yes. It shows Henry's unwavering belief in human corruptibility, his refusal to see any real virtue in Dorian. He thinks faithfulness is simply a confession of failures.
And during this conversation, Dorian admits Basil disappeared and mentions Alan Campbell's suicide.
Yes. Campbell's suicide is publicly blamed on his divorce case pressure. But the tragic chain of ruin linked to Dorian is crystal clear to us, the listener. Even if the characters themselves don't fully acknowledge it, staying in their bubble of aesthetic detachment.
And Dorian himself seems unaffected by these deaths, still talking about Sybil's death like it was a play.
Chillingly, yes. It seems to me to be simply like a wonderful ending to a wonderful play. A tragedy in which I took a great part, but by which I have not been wounded. Still detached.
But despite this outward calm and Henry's cynical reassurances, Dorian is deeply troubled, isn't he?
Profoundly. The burden of his secret life, his secret self, has become unbearable. He admits the portrait, his grotesque mirror, is a constant torment. Kept him awake at night, filled him with terror, marred many moments of joy.
He finally calls it what it is.
He explicitly states, it had been like conscience to him. Yes, it had been conscience. His beautiful youth, maintained by the portrait's decay, is now just a gilded prison. He craves peace, release from this living, painted nightmare.
This admission really brings home that central theme, doesn't it? The unbearable cost of trying to live for beauty and sensation without any morality.
Absolutely. His attempt to live purely for sensation, consequence-free, has paradoxically created this living embodiment of guilt in the portrait. It's the visual, undeniable proof of his sins, He gets this idea that destroying the portrait will kill the past, and when that was dead, he would be free.
A desperate final attempt to silence his internal suffering, escape the evidence.
Exactly. A final, misguided attempt at self-absolution. He longs for the peace he thinks will come from shattering the mirror of his soul, believing if the record is gone, the soul itself will be clean.
So, driven by this frantic need for peace, and maybe that same uncontrollable hatred he felt when he killed Basil, he goes back to the locked room, determined to destroy the picture.
Yeah. He tears back the purple hanging and sees it. A cry of pain and indignation breaks from him.
Has it changed?
It hasn't improved. If anything, it's worse. There's an intensified look of cunning in the eyes, the curved wrinkle of the hypocrite in the mouth. It's loathsome, more loathsome if possible than before. And the scarlet dew is still on the hands, Basil's blood still there. The portrait, this unjust mirror, just shows him his true self. Unvarnished, hideous.
It reflects his hypocrisy, especially with the Hetty Merton incident.
Precisely. It shows his continuing vanity, curiosity, and hypocrisy. He briefly thinks about confessing, a fleeting thought of maybe finding salvation that way.
But dismisses it.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Knows the world would simply say that he was mad. They'd lock him up if he persisted, especially since there was no trace of the murdered man anywhere.
The practical impossibility of confession drives him back to the only solution he sees.
Destruction. He feels if he could just destroy the painting, he can erase his guilt, somehow find purity again.
So, driven by this desperate need for peace, for self-preservation, he grabs the knife. The same knife he used to kill Basil.
Yes. He stabs the portrait, believing he will kill the painter's work. And all that meant, it would kill the past. It would kill this monstrous soul life. Thinking that without its hideous warnings, he would finally be at peace. The sound of the knife piercing the canvas, that's his final, fateful act.
And then what happens? A cry. A crash.
Yes, a cry and a crash are heard from inside the room. The cry is so horrible in its agony that the servants downstairs are terrified. They try to force the door, can't get in, so they climb onto the roof and drop down onto the balcony. The windows give way easily.
So the outside world finally breaks into his hidden chamber of horrors.
It does. And what they find, it's the ultimate poetic justice.
So what does this ending mean for you, the listener? What's Wilde's ultimate message here?
When the Olsen finally get inside, they find, hanging on the wall, a splendid portrait of their master as they had last seen him, in all the wonder of his exquisite youth and beauty.
The portrait is restored.
Perfectly. But on the floor lies a dead man, in evening dress, with a knife in his heart. He was withered, wrinkled, and loathsome of visage.
Oh my God, it's the ultimate twist.
Absolutely. Only by looking at the rings on the dead man's hand do the servants recognize who it is. Dorian Gray himself.
So destroying the portrait destroyed him.
In effect, yes. He destroyed the painting, but in doing so, he destroyed his own corrupted physical body, which had, in that final moment, taken on the true weight of his sins. His soul, now maybe free, returned to its original perfect form on the canvas, while his body became the full, horrifying embodiment of his moral decay.
Wow. The price of eternal youth was a life of decay, leading to this final physical horror.
Exactly. The painting, the art, ultimately triumphed over the corrupted life. It became the permanent record of his soul's journey. A chilling testament, really, that you can't escape the consequences of your choices, even if you try to hide them behind an impossibly beautiful facade.
The powerful, disturbing reflection on the true cost of chasing beauty and sensation without a moral compass. And there you have it. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us and this story. If you enjoyed it, a simple like or subscribe helps the channel out more than you know. Be good and take care.